The moment Elfrida Marlowe stepped beyond the cracked iron gate of her quiet countryside home that crisp winter morning, she had no idea. Her fragile world was about to collide with a scene that would echo through the town like a whispered legend carried by the wind. The sun hung pale and cold in the sky, casting a soft silver glow over frost-laced fields when her tired eyes fell upon two massive motorbikes abandoned at the edge of the narrow road, their chrome dulled by ice and silence. But it was not the machines that froze her breath. It was the sight of two motionless men slumped beside them, their heavy leather jackets dusted with snow, faces pale, fingers stiff, eyes closed as if caught between life and a dream too heavy to escape. In that still daylight, when even the birds ceased their songs, an elderly widow, known for her gentle solitude, found herself face to face with something the entire town feared and avoided. Two Hell's Angels riders, feared storm bringers of the highways, now helpless and frozen on her doorstep. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and powerful second chances, then like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Light of Kindness, because stories like this remind us that humanity still shines even in the coldest moments. Elfrida had lived alone since her husband passed more than a decade ago, her days marked by quiet routines, tending her small garden, feeding stray birds, and knitting blankets for no one in particular, but anyone who might need warmth. Her body was frail, her steps slow, but her heart had never hardened, not even when loneliness pressed against her like a heavy fog. The sight of those men should have filled her with fear, the kind the town often whispered about whenever roaring engines tore past their cottages. Yet, what she felt instead was something deeper, a tug of sorrow and instinct that spoke of lives broken, of souls lost not to cruelty, but perhaps to cold and fate. The winter wind whipped against her old coat, yet she moved forward, kneeling beside the first rider, her shaky hands brushing the icy fabric to feel a faint pulse of life still lingering. In that fleeting second, she did not see gang members or symbols of fear. She saw someone's children, men who had lost their way yet still breathed beneath the frost. With every ounce of strength she carried, Elfrida dragged out spare wool blankets from her shed, wrapping their stiff frames with trembling compassion, whispering prayers she had learned as a girl. Her breath came in desperate clouds as she struggled to warm their icy hands and shield them from the biting air. There was no hesitation, no calculation, only a pure instinct fueled by years of silent empathy. Slowly, she managed to call the only neighbor who still answered her phone, a grocer named Peregrine Holt, who rushed to bring help, while the town began to murmur, peeking from their windows as sirens echoed through the daylight. By the time emergency vehicles arrived, the two riders, named Rourke Holden and Maddox Vire, had been kept alive not by law or authority, but by the frail arms of a woman who refused to turn away from suffering. As word spread across the streets, people gathered in disbelief, their eyes wide with questions and judgment. Many knew the symbols on those jackets. Many remembered the nights when roaring bikes startled children awake and arguments echoed on quiet roads. Yet now, under the pale blue sky, they were simply men receiving kindness from a soul who had nothing to gain. Elfrida watched silently as they were lifted onto stretchers, her heart pounding, her mind weighed down by memories of her own son, who had left with dreams louder than this town could hold and never returned. In her eyes, these strangers were just echoes of that loss, reminders that compassion was stronger than fear when given room to breathe. Days turned into whispers of astonishment. At the small town's center, people spoke her name in hushed respect, though some questioned her sense. Why risk her safety? Why help those who once brought anxiety to their quiet streets? But Elfrida never explained her actions with words. She believed that compassion did not need applause, only purpose. Yet fate had its own way of weaving hearts together. When Rourke and Maddox regained consciousness in the hospital, the first thing they were told was not about the severity of the cold or the frostbite threatening their limbs, but about the old woman who had saved them from becoming silent shadows beneath winter's mercy. Their journey to that frozen roadside had not been one of violence or intent to harm. It had been one of lost roads and shattered choices. Rourke, hardened by years of rough living, and Maddox, carrying wounds from a forgotten past, had ridden through the snow believing strength was shown through recklessness rather than restraint. Their bikes had failed them under the cruel winter chill, and exhaustion carved them into helplessness. Yet in their weakest moment it was kindness, not defiance, that rescued them. When they learned of Elfrida, their rough masks cracked, and beneath the scar and worn leather lived two souls burdened by regrets they never dared to voice. When they returned to Summerwell weeks later, supported by canes and steady resolve, the town watched. As they walked toward Elfrida's home, not as feared riders but as humbled men seeking forgiveness, the sunshine spread softly across the road, warm enough to melt faint patches of snow. As they bowed their heads with silent respect, Elfrida, who had not expected gratitude nor reward, opened her door with calm eyes, noticing not the leather or the symbols, but the quiet sincerity carried within their gaze. That moment melted the final layer of suspicion her neighbors held, as they witnessed strength born not from power but from humility and grace. As the seasons shifted and the snow surrendered to blossoming warmth, the town of Summerwell stood, transformed not by miracles of wealth or power, but by the courage of one woman who chose empathy over fear. Elfrida's story echoed through the lives of many, a reminder that true strength lies in offering warmth to those the world may have deemed unworthy. And as the sun dipped behind the hills on yet another peaceful afternoon, a quiet understanding settled in the hearts of all who witnessed this journey, that kindness does not erase scars, but it turns them into symbols of survival, growth, and redemption. If this story reached your heart, if it made you believe in the power of compassion, we invite you to engage with this video and become part of spreading light through shared humanity. Special request, please comment below and share how this story made you feel and what kindness means to you. As Elfrida stood by her gate, watching Rourke and Maddox work side by side beneath the golden blue sky, she felt a warmth deeper than any blanket she had wrapped around them that winter morning. A warmth that whispered of hope, resilience, and the undeniable truth that even from the coldest silence, life always finds a way back to light.